he said. He couldn't stop laughing for a moment. He had an easy laugh, a pleasant laugh. It was a modern tool of the trade, especially in Hollywood, New York, Paris, his favorite haunts. "At least you're honest about it," she said. She was laughing now, too, and a gold link necklace jangled against her chest. He ached to reach out and rip it off, to run his tongue over her breasts. She was doomed now, if that was his desire, his wish, his slightest whim. Should he go on? Perhaps look a little further? The blood in his head was roaring, swirling with tremendous force. He had to decide. He looked into the untroubled blue eyes of the blonde woman again and saw the answer. "I don't know about you," he said, trying to sound calm, "but I think I found what I like very much in here." "Yes, I think I may have found what I need, too," she said after a pause. Then she laughed. "Where are you from? You're not from around here, are you?" "Originally from North Carolina." He held the bell-jangling door open for her, and they left the antique clothing store together. "I've worked on losing my accent." "You've succeeded," she said. She was wonderfully impressed with herself, not the least bit self-conscious. She had an aura of self-confidence and competency, which he would absolutely shatter. Oh, God, he wanted this one so badly. Chapter 61. "Here we go, action fans. He's leaving Nativity with the blonde girl. They're out on Melrose Avenue." We were using binoculars to watch the incredible encounter through Nativity's decorative front window. The FBI also had directional microphones on Dr. Will Rudolph, as well as on the blonde woman in the trendy shop. It was an FBI-only stakeout. They hadn't even clued in the LAPD. Nada. It was pretty typical Bureau tactics. Only I was on their side this time, compliments of Kyle Craig. The FBI had wanted to talk to Kate in Los Angeles. Kyle arranged for me to come after I beat on him about the deal we'd made, and how this could be the most important break we'd had on the Casanova investigation. It was just past 5:30, noisy, chaotic rush hour on a California gorgeous sunny day, temperature in the mid-70s, heartbeats rising toward at least 1,000 inside our car. We were finally closing in on one of the monsters, at least we hoped so. Dr. Will Rudolph struck me as a modern-day vampire. He had spent the afternoon casually roaming among the stylish shops, Ecru, Grau, Mark Fox. Even the girls idling in front of Johnny Rocket's 50s-style burger stand were potential targets of his. He was definitely a hunter today. He was girl-watching. Was he the gentleman caller, though? I was working closely with 2 senior FBI agents in an anonymous-looking minivan parked on a side street off Melrose Avenue. Our radio was hooked to the state-of-the-art directional mics that were in 2 of the other 5 cars trailing the man believed to be the gentleman. It was almost showtime. "I think I may have found what I need, too," we heard the blonde woman say. She reminded me of the beautiful students Casanova had abducted in the South. Could he be one and the same monster, a coast-to-coast killer? Maybe a split personality. FBI experts here on the West Coast believed they had the answer. In their view, the same creep did the so-called perfect crimes on both coasts. A victim had never been kidnapped or killed on the same day. Unfortunately, there were at least a dozen theories about the gentleman caller and Casanova that I was aware of. I still wasn't convinced by any of them. "How long have you been in Hollywood?" we heard the blonde woman ask Rudolph. Her voice sounded alluring and sexy. She was obviously flirting with him. "Long enough to meet you." He was soft-spoken and courteous so far. His right hand rested lightly under her left elbow. The gentleman? He didn't look like a killer, but he did resemble the Casanova that Kate McTiernan had described. He was a hunk physically, clearly attractive to women, and he was a doctor. His eyes were blue, the color Kate had seen behind Casanova's mask. "Cockfucker looks like he could have any girl he wanted," one of the FBI agents turned to me and said. "Not to do what he wants to do to them," I said. "You got a point there." The agent, John Acero, was Mexican-American. He was balding, but with a compensating bushy mustache. He was probably in his late 40s. The other agent was Raymond Cosgrove. Both of them were good men, high-level bureau professionals. Kyle Craig was taking care of me so far. I couldn't take my eyes off Rudolph and the blonde woman. She was pointing toward a shiny black Mercedes convertible with its tan top down. More expensive shops stood out in the background. IAI Works, Galley Melrose. Another garish store sign, 8-foot-high cowboy boots framed her wind-blown hair. We listened as they talked on the crowded street. The directional mics picked up everything. No one in the surveillance car was making a sound. "That's my car over there, sport. The red-haired lady in the passenger seat? She's my sweetie. Did you really think you could pick me up just like that?" The blonde woman snapped her fingers, and the colorful bracelets on her arm rattled in Rudolph's face. "Kiss off, Dr. Kildare." John Asaro groaned out loud. "Christ, she shot him down. She set him up. Isn't that beautiful? Only in L.A." Raymond Cosgrove pounded the dash with the thick heel of his hand. "Son of a bitch. She's walking away. Go back to him, sweetheart. Tell him you were only kidding." We'd had him, or were very close to it. It made me physically sick to think that he was getting away. We had to catch him at something, or an arrest wouldn't hold up. The blonde woman crossed Melrose and slid into the sleek black Mercedes. Her friend had short red hair, and her silver bangle earrings caught the late-day sunlight. The woman leaned in and gave her sweetie a kiss. As Dr. Will Rudolph watched them, he didn't appear at all upset. He stood on the sidewalk with his hands stuffed into the pockets of his white jacket, looking cool and relaxed, neutral, as if nothing had happened. Were we seeing the gentleman caller's mask? The two lovers in the convertible waved as the Mercedes roared past, and he gave them a smile, a shrug of the shoulders, a cool nod of his head. We could hear him hiss through the directional mics. "Ciao, ladies. I'd like to cut you both into pieces and feed you to the gulls at Venice Beach. And I do have your license plate number, you silly twats." Chapter 62. We trailed Dr. Will Rudolph to his luxury penthouse apartment at the Beverly Comstock. The FBI knew where he lived. They hadn't shared that information with the LAPD either. The tension and disappointment were heavy inside our car. The FBI was playing a dangerous game of freeze-out with the Los Angeles police. I finally left the stakeout at around 11 o'clock. Rudolph had been inside for more than 4 hours. A loud, unidentifiable buzzing noise in my head wouldn't go away. I was still moving on Eastern time. It was 2 a.m. for me, and I needed to get some sleep soon. The FBI agents promised to call right away if anything broke, or if Dr. Rudolph went out hunting again that night. It had to have been a bad scene for him on Melrose, and I thought that he might go after someone else soon. If he was actually the gentleman caller. I was driven to the Holiday Inn at Sunset in Sepulveda. Kate McTiernan was staying there, too. The FBI had flown her to California because Kate knew more about Casanova than anyone they had assigned to the case. She had been kidnapped by the creep and had lived to tell about it. Kate might be able to identify the killer if he and Casanova were the same person. She had spent most of the day being interviewed at the FBI offices in downtown Los Angeles. Her room was several doors down from mine at the hotel. I only had to knock once before she opened a white door with a black 26 on the knocker. "I couldn't sleep. I was up waiting," she said. "What happened? Tell me everything." I guess I wasn't in a great mood after the failed bust. "Unfortunately, nothing happened," I told her the bottom line. Kate nodded, waiting for more. She had on a light blue tank top, khaki shorts, and yellow flip-flops. She was wide awake and revved up. I was glad to see her, even at 2:30 on a shitty morning. I finally came in and we talked about the FBI stakeout on Melrose Avenue. I told Kate how close we might have come to getting Dr. Will Rudolph. I remembered everything he'd said, every gesture. He sounded like a gentleman. He acted like a gentleman, too, right up until the blonde woman made him angry. "What does he look like?" Kate asked. She was eager to help. I couldn't blame her. The FBI had flown her to Los Angeles, then stuck her in a hotel room for most of the day and night. "I know how you feel, Kate. I've talked to the FBI, and you're going to ride with me tomorrow. You're going to see him, probably in the morning. I don't want to set up any bias in your mind. Is that okay?" Kate nodded, but I could tell her feelings were hurt. She definitely wasn't happy about her level of involvement so far. "I'm sorry, I don't want to act like a tough detective, a controlling bastard," I finally said. "Let's not fight about it." "Well, you were distant. Anyway, you're forgiven. I guess we better get some sleep. Tomorrow's another day. Big day, maybe." "Yeah, tomorrow could be a big day. I really am sorry, Kate." "I know you are," she finally smiled. "You really are forgiven. Sweet dreams. Tomorrow we nail Beavis, then we get Butthead." I finally went off to my room. I hit the bed and thought about Kyle Craig for a while. He'd been able to sell my unorthodox style to his confreres for one reason. It had worked before. I already had one monster's scalp on my belt. I hadn't played according to the rules to get it. Kyle understood and respected results. In general, so did the Bureau. They were certainly playing according to their own rules here in Los Angeles. My last semi-conscious thought was of Kate in those khaki shorts. Take your breath away. I had a passing thought that she might come down the hall and knock, knock, knock on my door. We were in Hollywood, after all. Wasn't that the way it happened in the movies? But Kate didn't come knocking on my hotel door. So much for Clint Eastwood and Rene Russo fantasies. Chapter 63. This was going to be a big day in Tinseltown. The manhunt of manhunts was playing in Beverly Hills, just like the day they finally caught the killer strangler Richard Ramirez out here. Today we get Beavis. It was a few minutes past 8 in the morning. Kate and I were sitting in an Arctic blue Taurus, parked half a block from Cedars Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. There was an electric sound in the air, as if the city were being run on a single huge generator. A play on an old line ran through my head. Hell is a city much like Los Angeles. I was nervous and tense. My body felt numb and my stomach was queasy. The burnout factor, not enough sleep. Too much stress for too long a stretch. Chasing monsters from sea to shining sea. "That's Dr. Will Rudolph climbing out of the BMW," I said to Kate. I was so wound up. I felt as if strong hands were squeezing me. "Good looking," Kate muttered. "Real sure of himself, too. The way he moves. Dr. Rudolph." Kate didn't say another word as she intently watched Rudolph. Was he the gentleman caller? Was he also Casanova? Or were we being set up for some sick psychopathic reason that I didn't understand yet? The morning's temperature hovered in the low 60s. The air had a crisp snap like fall in the northeast. Kate had on an old college sweatsuit, high-topped running shoes, dime-store sunglasses. Her long brown hair was bunched back in a ponytail. Sensible stakeout attire and grooming. "Alex, the FBI is all around him now?" she asked me without looking away from the binoculars. "They're here right now. That scum can't possibly get away?" I nodded. If he does anything that shows us he's the gentleman, they'll grab him. They want this arrest for themselves. But the FBI was also giving me whatever rope I needed. Kyle Craig had kept his promise, so far anyway. Kate and I watched as Dr. Will Rudolph slid out of the BMW coupe, which he'd just parked in a private lot on the west side of the hospital. He wore a European-style charcoal gray suit. It was cut well and looked expensive. It probably cost as much as my house in D.C. His brown hair was held back in a fashionable ponytail. He had on dark glasses with round tortoiseshell frames. A doctor in an exclusive Beverly Hills hospital, smug as hell. The goddamn gentleman caller who was setting the city on fire? I ached to run across the parking lot and hit him, take him down right now. I ground my teeth until my jaw was stiff. Kate wouldn't take her eyes away from Dr. Will Rudolph. Was he Casanova, too? Were they one and the same monster? Was that it? We both watched Rudolph as he crossed the hospital lot. His stride was long and quick and buoyant. Nothing bothering him today. Finally, he disappeared inside a gray metal side door of the hospital. "A doctor," Kate said, and shook her head back and forth.